All right. Welcome, my fellow stackers. Great to have you here. So glad you could join me for the first episode of Mastering Metals in 2025. And we're premiering this podcast with two very special co hosts, Chase Turner, the CEO of SD Bullion, and James Anderson, the senior market analyst for SD Bullion. Oh boy, James is a rock star with a lot of important data that we're going to enjoy learning from him. And Chase has got to answer your questions too. It's going to be a fun night, very interesting night, and we got a lot to talk about. Like, how about gold repatriation? That's in the news. How about gold revaluation? That's also been in the news. Of course, Fort Knox has been in the news recently. And silver. We got to talk about silver. And by the way, speaking of silver, I just need to let you know that next week on Silver Pros, hosted on my channel, we're going to have Andrew Dickey from the Royal Mint joining Dragons and me with SD Bullion. You're not going to want to miss that incredible live stream with the Royal Mint. All right, so I'm Yankee. I'm going to be your host for this super fun hour about gold and silver. Let's welcome our guests in right now. There they are. Chase, James, great to see you both here.
Hey, Yankee.
How you doing? Are you as pumped up as I am?
Yeah, very excited. We've been talking about this for
No.
a year.
You're not as pumped up as I am. Don't give me that, man. No, I am super happy to have both of you here. This is our 16th episode of Mastering Metals, but it is your first episode with me, right?
This is number one.
First time.
So we're going to kick it off the right way, as we always do.
I'm going to explain to both of you guys and any first-timers watching this show how we do things here on Mastering Metals. So it's a video podcast. It's split into 3 segments, hopefully providing a wide spectrum of value to stackers and people watching here. So the first one is markets and macro. The second is retirement insights. And the third, my favorite, the Q&A. And that's going to be open up to both of you guys. I'll take some questions too, but my guess is they're going to want to ask you most of the questions. So anyways, that's how we break it down. It's running about an hour. So why don't we just jump in right now on markets and macro. And James, this is your wheelhouse. This is all about precious metals news, trends, and things that affect us gold and silver stackers. So I'm really stoked to have you here on Mastering Metals. You provide excellent analysis. In fact, you provided an excellent precious metals update last Friday. You brought up some super hot topics that are going on right now, like auditing our gold reserves. You probably saw on X, Rand Paul took the baton from his dad, Ron, and urged Elon Musk to have Doge go and knock on the door of Fort Knox and start auditing it. Maybe even check out other depositories as well. How likely is that, James? Oh, you're muted. Go ahead. That's all right. Oh, you're still muted, I think. How likely is it?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, Elon Musk, he tweeted out today, like kind of a joke tweet, where it's like checking in on the goal of the Fed, and it's basically like, and it's gone, like the meme, so it's trivializing it. I mean, what we're talking about here is the nation's official gold reserve. When you look around the world, it is the largest. The only argument maybe for a larger one is if you combine all the European countries, and the EU bloc has probably 11,000 tons total. But our 8,133 tons is nothing to sneeze at, and it's almost twice as large as the second largest country. So I think it might be more than twice as large. It's a lot, and a good portion of that gold is the gold that was turned in 1933, the 90% coinage, the 22 karat gold coins. When FDR told the population to turn in their gold, he did it under the coercive force, basically through the threat of imprisonment and big fines. And it turned out, I went and looked at the data of basically the U.S. Mint has always kept data of the gold coins that they issued, from the late 1800s onward to 1933. And so we had the melt coins that came in, and you just run the arithmetic on it. It was like 27% of it got turned in. So about 3/4 of the population never turned in that gold. And so that's why you
Good
still
for
have,
them.
yeah, well, that's why you still have semi-numismatics in such a high population.
Yeah.
The old pre-1933 gold is still here because a lot of people either didn't know that the mandate was made or didn't even bother listening to it or what have you. So, but a lot of that gold is in Fort Knox, and those are usually called 90% bars. They were never refined to a 3.9 fine standard. And so, there's people out there who are pontificating on the idea that maybe they'll go and refine them to 3.9 fine levels. And I mean, I'm thinking if they were to do that internally in the United States, there's only like 5 or 6 major gold refiners in the United States. I don't know what kind of capacity. That would take years probably to do that. But the whole point of the thing, I think, is ultimately, I think what they're talking about or what they're inching toward is a combination of two things. They kind of want to use the tariffs as a threat to kind of get over on countries to get leverage on them to comply. They want to do in tariffs where if reciprocal tariffs, like if you're tariffing our stuff X%, we're coming right back with X%. And so to hopefully bring their tariffs down, if we can do that through negotiating leverage. The other thing is they want to come up with longer term duration bonds and be able to get the people in our the countries in our sphere of influence to sign on to say 50 or 100 years bonds, these perpetual bonds. So it'll help us to finance our debt in the future. Because obviously people know we have 36 trillion in hard debt growing. We have probably 150 to 200 trillion when you add it all up with unfunded liabilities that are coming due in a few decades. So ultimately, they're talking about maybe bringing gold back in terms of revaluing it to, almost $3,000 an ounce now. That would, if you did that, that gives you almost 800 billion to put in the Treasury, the TGA, the Treasury's general account, and so you can spend without going into debt.
Before you get into revaluation, I don't want to leave the whole Fort Knox thing quite yet. I want to know, what do you think would be the impact, the effect, if they actually did it, went in, and they found little or no gold there?
I think either way, if they do it, it's going to be bullish gold. I mean, anytime you even, you shine a light on it, it just basically says gold matters.
Good point.
Right? When you say gold matters, what does that mean? The population starts to relearn the fact that, oh yeah, that's right, the currency we use isn't really tied to gold. It's just these pieces of paper. Maybe I should own some gold too. And so one way or another, look, if they didn't have the gold, they'll come up with the gold. They're going to have the gold. That's just, this is an empire, and they'll come up with whatever they have to excuse-wise to say, not only do we have 8,000.
Yeah, they delay it. If anything, they delay it, right? And get the gold.
Not only do we have 8,133 tons, but we also had this opaque gold that we never reported that we got from World War II when we bombed Japan. We took a lot of their gold. So there's probably a bunch of gold that we don't even know about. I would be surprised if they didn't come in full force with even higher number, if they did, do some type of audit show. Because I mean, if you think about it, the last 10 years, like who's done the best showing of like our gold reserves? It's been Russia. Yeah. If you remember when Russia in 2016, 17, 18, I can't remember what year it was, but they came out and showed their holdings, and it was pretty impressive, the photos that they put online. And they have like 2,300 some odd tons of gold. And when you look at their balance sheet, it's the cleanest balance sheet in the entire world.
Wow. Well, okay, let's talk about the revaluation. Now, you mentioned in a recent video, that it was, I think, 1973 that we raised the price of gold on our government books from $35 an ounce to its current value of $42.22 an ounce. Right. It's just begging to be revalued higher than that, isn't it?
The reason why they did that at the time was to fill the TGA with some extra currency. They put $2 billion in there and used it to spend on who knows what. But that's the concept, is to be able to fill the TGA with 800 billion or more. And at the same time, Luke Groman had a good point last week. He's basically using a rising gold price to soften the dollar, because it's been very strong in the last 4 or 5 years relative to the rest of the world. Ultimately, if you want to reshore and build up the manufacturing base in the United States, you need to have the dollar get softer so it's attractive to people to come here and pay workers and do all those things that Trump wants to do. So ultimately, I think long term for the Trump administration, it's to soften the dollar.
So what do you
But
think?
also,
What do you think is likely if they were to revalue it? What makes sense? Do you have any idea?
right now, if they did it, it's three. You're probably going toward 3,000, maybe 4,000. At some point, they'll do it in the next year or so. And I would
Mm.
imagine, I would not be surprised to see gold at 3,500. By the second half of this year, I would imagine that it would go beyond all the guesses that the typical experts have been under guessing. For so long that I think the highest ones are like 3,200 for the year. So it doesn't surprise me they've been undershooting it. If we go to 35, 3,600 this year, that would not surprise me.
Now, gold repatriation over the next year, say, while Trump is in office, do you think we're going to see more nations doing it? I mean, it is incredible how many countries, one right after the other, they don't seem to trust third-party institutions like the Bank of England to
Right.
hold their reserves. They want it back. I mean, I saw an interview on, again, one of your videos with the governor of the Bank of England. He was discussing the delays in the gold
Right.
delivery, and it was hilarious. And he's like,
Yeah.
gold's really heavy, guys. I mean, do you see more repatriation?
So every time Andrew Bailey, the head of the Bank of England, gets out and talks about it gets worse and worse. He's really not that good at it, and talking about it, it always sounds like excuse after excuse. They're probably underhanded. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they're not out of the gold. Let's say that, okay? But it's for 2 months to get this gold out. It just shows you that it's not the greatest throughput for gold, moving across the ocean. From the beginning of December to now, middle February, we've got 19 million ounces of gold that have flowed into COMEX. So that it's just a gigantic amount. It's almost on par with the amount of gold that flew in during the COVID situation in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, at 19 million, to give you perspective of that, that's like 600 tons of gold, I believe, 600 tons, and that's like 2/3 of the entire underlying GLD in like a matter of a month, 2 months and a half. Just it's a lot of gold, right? It didn't all come from London. A lot of it came from Switzerland. A lot of it came from other places. So in Asia, you see a lot of the Korean market. They're having trouble with supply. A lot of these big dealers in Korea don't have any gold bars, any silver bars. All they have are sovereign coins that they import from elsewhere. Right. And you're also seeing some shortages in China in terms of bar options. And so there's a lot of push to try and get people to sell back so they can get some secondary inventory into their system. So this happens in the world gold market. You'll have a situation where, there's like a pendulum swing where one side will be dry and one side will be flush. Right now, the retail side on the West is flush, but the institutional side, it's not flush. Therefore, they had to demand this gold. So they had to pay a premium to get the suck into the United States. Whether or not it was the tariffs that did it, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to bring you back to tariffs.
Yeah,
I mean, the mainstream media just absolutely loves to point the finger right at Trump's tariffs.
Right.
Make it the scapegoat. Is that really what's going on? Is that
Well,
the
there's
reason?
a huge arbitrage opportunity, right? I mean, there's a 60, 70, $80 spread between London spot and COMEX. If you can hire a couple planes to fly gold over, you can make a lot of money at $60 an ounce, and you're sending like dozens and dozens of tons. That's a lot of money in a few steps. And so it's possibly just really what it was about. It was about arbitrage and making a lot of money. The other thing about the total 19 million gold that's come in, there's two main warehouses where it came into. Now the biggest warehouse in gold in the COMEX is Brinks, New York. 11 million ounces have flowed in. And then JP Morgan is now the second largest warehouse. It used to be always the largest. Now it's the second largest. And then 5.5 million ounces have flown in. So you're talking about 16.5 million of the 19 million ounces going to those two places. Now the question is, who in Brinks, New York is behind that 11 million? That's what I want to know. That would be the most important thing to know, right? And I don't think it's a sub account of the United States government. I think that's hopium. I think people who think that we're doing this to like,
that's the conspiracy. That's the conspiracy, though, right? It's the government that's buying it. Yeah.
If that was the policy, we should have been doing that 15, 20 years ago, slowly but surely.
Yep.
I mean, you don't do it now when it's $3,000 an ounce.
All at once, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
So, a lot of stackers watching this live stream. What difference does all this make? To us and the retail market for gold and silver. It sounds really cool, but why? What are we going to see? At SD Bullion or at our local coin shop.
What you're seeing is the monetary store value premium for gold starting to be understood, and to be understood in the sense that it's a replacement for the bond market, which is in a structural bear market essentially. I mean, bond market will probably have a rally in the next few years, but ultimately it's in a structural bear. And I mean, it was in a bull market for 40 years, so it wouldn't surprise me if we see it in a bear market for the next 2 decades. I mean, it's in such a bad bear market that now Trump has to go around beating people over the head and forcing them into 50 and 100-year bond scenarios, right? I mean, that's what they're going to have to do in order to finance the government, to come up with a Mar-a-Lago Accord or whatever they're hoping for. So yeah, so that's where we are in the situation in terms of the bond market. It's important that we find someone to help us fund our deficits coming out in debt.
Silver. Let's shift to silver.
Sure.
You know, the GSR is just shy of 90. And overall, since last May, it's been, flat but climbing. What's going on with the spot price of silver, and when do you think silver is going to start following gold up?
Yeah, if you look back, I mean, from the bottom of 2011, talking about the low 30s, to the very, very top during COVID, up to 130, right? Almost 130. So from 30 to 130 in a matter of 9 years, we dropped down, bounced. We've been kind of slowly climbing a little bit here. We're at a level now that's higher than we were at the peak of the 2008 global financial crisis, when everyone thought banks were going to fail and fall in on everybody's heads, right? So I remember back when spot silver late 2008 dropped to $9 an ounce, and the GSR was, I mean, it was pretty high. You see, it peaked at like 87, right? And that was at the worst of the worst in the 2008 financial crisis. And here we are, the system's working. We're not in like some deflationary nightmare, and we have a GSR just below 90. So if where we are in terms of when you look at charts on a long-term scale, when things go really out of whack like they did in 2020 COVID, what generally happens is eventually over time it will overshoot toward the downside. So it would not surprise me to see next 10 years to see the gold silver ratio not only go past where it went in 2011, but go lower back toward what people believe is, a more constitutional, reliable, mid-teens GSR spike down low. I'm not saying it's going to last and stay there. I'm saying that it will overshoot this concept that now that we, for the last 40 or 50 years gotten used to the GSR floating between 75 and like 50 or 65, right? That idea is going to get overshot to the downside as it was overshot to the upside not a few years ago.
So can you guys hear me? I don't think I lost my internet. I think I lost my internet. Yeah, I actually have a question on the GSR, because I was thinking this weekend, James. I wrote an email, thinking late last week, talking about this silver price at $33 and basically the same conversation as GSR. And then you put something out on LinkedIn talking about basically how silver is still super undervalued. And it got me thinking and saying, okay, I'm not saying gold's overvalued. I'm not saying that at all, but gold's definitely setting new highs every week, right? Is this a consideration for a stacker to, and I'm asking this but on my own behalf, because I started thinking about this weekend. Should I be selling some of my gold and buying silver with it now, and then when the GSR does close, flip it back into gold? Because I feel like that's the value play right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who do that. Who basically they will not buy gold unless the GSR is below, say, 65 or something like that, maybe down in the 40s. If you get GSR that low, then you might just want to go straight to gold. But a lot of people, when it's at 90, they won't even buy gold. They'll just look at 90 and say, there's no way it's going to stay here. So I'm going to go silver first. And then later on, if it falls and collapses back toward the lower end, I'll flip it out and go into gold or what have you. So yeah, that's a very common move that people use. It depends. You can do it on a short-term basis or on a longer-term basis. The longer-term basis is a little bit more. It's a little easier, but you have to be patient and really kind of have a plan for what your thresholds are.
Jason, in last week's video, James mentioned that there was, I think he called it collapsing premiums on U.S. 90% silver inventories. Are you seeing that at SD Bullion? Like, no love for constitutional silver? I mean, is the premium really dropping?
Yeah, it is. I'm hearing a lot of it going to the refiner. actually, which is what
That is
in some
awful.
ways it's I know it
I
is. In
hate
some
thinking
ways,
that,
it's good if
man.
you hold it
Oh my
because it's just creating less out there.
wow.
Yeah, it is. I would say in general, we've seen an uptick in demand very recently. I would say the last 2 weeks have been
Hmm.
like super strong. It's going to be interesting to see where premiums go from here. They haven't budged at all right now. Just with that little demand, it's been so soft for so long. There's been so much gold, silver coming back to everybody in the industry, and then you have this the tariff situation you're talking about earlier that's backing up the refiners.
Hmm.
Uh, but I don't know when it's going to change. But yeah, right now, I mean, you the premiums on this stuff is as cheap as even before COVID. We always talk about before COVID. I always tell people at SD Bullion, when I started in 2016, we were selling, silver and gold for cheaper than I ever remember selling it. And now we're actually lower than you're seeing silver and gold for lower than those prices on the market. So the premiums are super soft, which is good if you're buying, right? And
Yeah, I wish I had.
not so great if you're selling.
Right, I wish I had done my barter boxes when the premiums were a lot lower than what I did.
Yeah, the one thing
Yeah,
to
but you
Go
remember.
ahead.
also bought it at a lower price.
That is true. That is true. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
Speaker brought up a great point the other night on his F on he was doing a live that and he brought up a great point. He's like, it's amazing to me that people were buying silver eagles at $25 over spot when silver was at like $20. They're paying $45 for
Right.
a 1 ounce silver eagle back in Silicon Valley Bank and COVID,
Mhm.
and now they won't even buy silver eagle for $35. It's like, where's the psychology at on this? And so yeah, I mean, and that's why my GSR question earlier is because I'm looking at where I got into gold, where it is now, and I'm going,
Hmm.
should I take some profits and move them into silver to max out? Because I've seen that over my career, whether it's trading silver eagle premiums or whatever it is. You have this finite, at least we have the stack, right? And you look at it and you go, I'm going to hold it forever. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean that I can't make moves inside of my stack
Mhm.
over a long period of time to just take advantage of the knowledge and what's going on in the marketplace. So, uh, yeah, those are all the things I'm thinking about right now.
What were you gonna say, James?
So that chart I put up in the video of the 90% chart, you can see there's, I think, 4 or 5 waves on it. And so this is a consistent thing. This happens over and over where it goes up, spikes up, and then it collapses back down towards zero and spikes back up. So basically for 90% people, it's your arbitrage. You wait when it's low and it's zero. If you want to add, that's when you buy it.
Mm.
But when it goes up like that, if you can swing trade those arbitrages, always swing trade
Yeah.
arbitrages. I mean, arbitrages when it premium spike, they don't last forever, and you just have to have a feel for what you think this spike is going to go to peak wise,
Hmm.
and try and I did it last time. We sent an email out from SD Bullion suggesting to our clients that they do it.
Oh
That
yeah,
was literally
remember that.
the peak of that premium spike. And I
Yeah.
remember flipping a bunch of silver eagles at that point, and I maxed out, like, basically turned a case of 500 ounces to 750 ounces of raw,
Yeah.
typical rounds
Wow.
and bars. So
Wow.
that it
Well, I mean,
exists.
yeah. Think about when you were saying, because I've heard you tell me this before in 2008 when you saw silver at $9, premiums on that stuff was $21. It's like $30 for silver eagle back then, right?
Right. It depended on where
Yeah.
you looked, but yeah, they
Yeah.
were non-existent. There was a day or two on our we didn't have any products, and then the day or two where all we had were gold kilo bars.
Hmm.
The spot price of gold kilo bars was $700. I remember selling one to a lady at like 920. I felt bad about it because it was like, look, we don't really have much inventory here, and I'm selling it to you at a ridiculous high price compared to
Yeah.
spot. But I'm sure that lady's happy that she bought it at 920 today, right? I mean, she still has it, right? So it's just one of those things. Things they blow out in those shortage scenarios, and premiums go crazy. And it's a question of, is it worth it? And in 2008 it was, because $9 spot. Yeah, I remember getting silver maple leaves for like 12 bucks a piece, or 11.50 a
Wow.
piece. So yeah, it was a pretty good price.
So Chase, something you mentioned in passing about people selling their silverback, I think it reminded me of something that Tim, my LCS dealer, wanted me to ask you. He said, "Ask
Okay.
Chase this question: Are you getting a lot of buybacks? People selling back to you more than before? Is that gone up dramatically at all?"
Yeah, as the price climbs, there's a few scenarios, right? We see a lot of people um, that this major inflationary period that we've been through in life, the cost of everything in life, not just goods and services, but insurance and everything has skyrocketed year over year. It feels like insurance goes up 20%. And so we've had a lot of people selling back just because they kind of have to, unfortunately.
Mm,
Then you have a lot of people that are in the gold specifically that are taking profits, right?
mm,
That's kind of your two main use cases. But yeah, as gold and silver go higher, you're going to have more people selling off, and we've certainly seen an uptick of that over the past, call it 12 to 14 months at SD Bullion.
yep. Yep. That's consistent with a lot of dealers. I know Harry mentioned it. Tim, I'm in the shop a lot, so I get to see just how many people
Yeah,
selling, selling, selling. And if they need to, I get it.
yeah,
The liquidity is great, but part of me is like, wow, don't don't do that if you can possibly hold on to it. Man, it just hurts to see them sell it back. All right, so last question then, Chase. What are people buying at SD Bullion? What's hot?
yeah. Gold's been hot recently. Like when I say recently, probably the last week, we've seen a tremendous amount of demand for gold and silver as well. But I would say most people are buying pretty smartly on our website right now.
Mm,
They're taking advantage of the promotions that we have, whether it's on the deals page. If you're on our email list, we send out promotions just to our email or SMS subscribers.
right.
So if you're not on that list, you missed an amazing deal last week. We had silver rounds at 29 cents over spot. We sold a bunch of those.
I didn't miss
Uh,
it.
yeah, I didn't either. It was I'm into Silver Eagle buying mode right now because of the
Yes.
conversation that we just talked about. But I mean, when you see silver rounds at 29% or 29 cents over spot, I wouldn't pick some up too. I just couldn't resist.
Yeah, that was a great deal. Also, the introductory pricing on the new cowboy rounds.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. The
Oh,
Cowboy rounds has been selling well. We're gonna have Josh on, like we talked about pregame
yep.
here, Yankee, to do the next commander, and we'll talk about probably the rifleman as well.
Mm,
I'm there 'cause it's a beautiful round that it's just a nice little. When you stack long enough, you have a lot of things at your house just to look at. Like generic silver rounds at 29%, that's just a bulk purchase.
yeah,
But if you want something to kind of look at your house or show your friends when they come over, that's the Scottsdale Rifleman and the Cowboy round.
it's great. All right, so that was market to macro. James, great job. Thank you so much. I love that. Let's shift gears at least for a few minutes before we get into the
Yeah.
Q&A. I do want to talk about retirement insights. Chase, we've talked a lot about IRAs and 401ks and what you're doing with your depository. SD Bullion has a phenomenal gold and silver IRA. I'm actually going to be putting some of my uh, legacy 401k into SD Bullion's depository as a gold and silver IRA upcoming this year. I'm going to document the whole process because I'm really interested in doing it. But there's a lot of misconceptions with a gold IRA and a lot of dangers with a gold and silver IRA. Could you just highlight for us maybe what are the top three misconceptions and dangers with gold and silver IRAs in general? What have you seen?
Yeah, I think in general, one of the consistent themes we keep seeing from the stacking community on this is if you don't hold it, you don't own it,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's not what this program is. This isn't a replacement for stacking. It's simply, if you and there's many layers of this. Yankee, I mean, you're pretty advanced in this. I feel like I'm decently advanced in this. There's a lot of things that you can do with retirement accounts for long-term wealth building and tax savings, right?
Hmm.
For myself, when I had my own business before SD Bullion, I took advantage of a pretty, um, I would say, unique way to defer taxes, a significant amount of taxes per year, and I had to put them into a retirement account. Now, this is a retirement account that I manage with. It's no different than an LLC business with a bank. There's so many different layers out there. So at the end of the day, if you have money in a retirement account, a 401k from a job, or if you're like I was, a self-employed person, and you're looking for ways to defer taxes
Hmm.
longer term to take advantage of some short-term opportunities, these monies set in a retirement account that you can't touch, right? They're at arm's length, so to speak. And what a lot of people don't know is you can take those same retirement funds and invest them in physical precious metals, just like you do the precious metals that you buy from SD Bullion and store them in your own safe at home. These are just stored in a retirement account. I allocate it under your retirement account long term, but it's no different. It's the same physical ownership as it would be if you're just buying it. And so it allows people out there that have money in a long term retirement play. It allows them a physical hedge against everything. The same reason you buy gold and silver. Now, a lot of people's first kind of reaction, and James knows this, he sees it a lot, is on our channel is like, oh, I'll go buy SLV or GLD. I'll buy the paper, I'll buy paper gold. That is the furthest thing from what we're talking about, because the reason to buy physical is to protect yourself. And if you go that route, you have zero protection against the paper market. And so I would say that, yeah, the biggest thing is like, hey, this isn't a replacement stacking plan. This is kind of a different type of strategy depending on your personal situation, whether you have money from your 401k or your retirement, like you did. You had money in your 401k from working forever. Tyler, the owner of SD Bullion, the same thing. He was a pharmacist before SD Bullion, so he had built up a significant little 401k. And it's just, what do you want to do with those funds, right?
This isn't saying that we're not advocating for someone to take part in their company's 401k or to even open up an IRA. I mean, I'm not telling people that that's necessarily the wise thing to do. However, if you already do have a retirement account or 401k from an employee, an employer, well, the whole you don't hold it, you don't own it applies to that too. You can't hold that either. So at the very least, I look at it as a hedge. It's the reason I'm doing it. I can't take that money out. It's locked up in there unless I want to pay some
But you
exorbitant,
you have to pay
an exorbitant, withdrawal penalty here until I'm 59 and a half, which I'm getting there, guys. So to me, it's locked up. Where do I want it? In paper assets? That's how they lock you in. They try to get you to do all the paper asset. I want it in physical gold and silver. So, and then I'll probably just take, a distribution and put it in my own safe once I do reach that age. But, I think that's one of the misconceptions. It's not stacking. No, it's not. It's hedging your retirement accounts, existing retirement accounts. I think another one is that it's expensive. The whole, well, you put it in a depository. What are the fees like? Storage fees.
Yeah.
That's another concern, right?
Yeah, but let's touch on something important you just said. So the other great thing is, let's say you got a $500,000 in your 401k in your retirement. And again, we're not advocating take all your money and put it into gold, but whatever you do put into gold, whatever you do put into physical gold from your 401k, I like to call it a gold and silver retirement plan.
Yep.
When you hit that magic age, you can actually take physical delivery of the metal, like Yankee said he's going to do. You don't actually have to settle in paper. And when people understand that, they get very interested in it. So they have this money they can't touch. They're like, you're telling me I can put it in physical now.
Yeah.
And whenever I hit the certain age, I can just take physical delivery of it. Yes, you can.
Don't take this wrong.
Don't
take this wrong. I've seen your depository. I've talked to Rocco. I know how safe it is, because that's another concern. It isn't safe. Don't take this bad, but when I'm 59 and a half, it's going in my safe. Okay. I want to see the metals in my hands. Now, some people might turn around and sell it back to you. That's fine. They want to do that. But no, I want the metals. But there are some risks here, right? Some bad, unscrupulous depositories and other places that don't they do all kinds of nasty stuff, right? And you've seen it over and over again, haven't you, Chase? Bad stuff like high premium crap, right?
Yeah. So Dragons and I just released a video on this. I think he put it out this last a Monday ago, where we go through all the people. I mean, Oxford Gold recently was probably one of the worst we've ever seen, where they were just taking customers' money and not shipping the metals. And you got to ask yourself, how does Oxford Gold was a pretty big name in our space for a decent amount of time. And you have to ask yourself, how does that possibly go on? And the reason that it goes on is because anytime you want to have a gold retirement account, there's normally three parties involved. There's the dealer, which in this case would have been Oxford. There's the custodian, which is basically the back end paperwork, no different than your 401k admin plan person.
Right.
And then there's the depository, because the government says it's got to be at arm's length. It has to be in a depository.
Mm-hmm.
There's people out there that will talk about taking delivery of it. That's something that I don't agree with. All the people that I've talked to in the IRA business, not,
No, it's been
there's
litigated.
court cases. Yeah, it's been litigated.
And it doesn't end
Yeah.
well. No, don't do that.
So you got to ask yourself, how's Oxford Gold taking orders from customers, not actually even buying the gold and shipping it to a depository, and none of the other two parties know about that? And what happened when we started SDIRA, Yankee? We had no idea. We started the whole thing just to try to streamline the IRA business, because a lot of the feedback is, oh, there's a lot of paperwork or it's confusing. So we basically tried to solve these problems. And there's the high premium problem, which we could talk for hours about that. Tyler and I throw out examples on the recent podcast that we did about the IRA, where we just had a person literally just this week, they were locked in. Probably won't say the name of the company. You can find they're all over the TV.
All over radio, TV, and online. Yeah.
Quarter ounce gold coins. The premium per ounce was around $3,000 per ounce for the premium. Luckily, the guy had locked the order in with the company, but he hadn't transferred yet. So at SD Bullion, we do it completely different. You set your account up, you fund your account, then we'll lock in the trade, right? Once the money's there. These guys that are snake oil salesmen, they don't really care. They're just trying to get you in on something. And then once they lock you, they make you feel guilty and pound you. Luckily, this guy didn't send the money yet. He saw Tyler and I's podcast, called us, and we walked him through the math of everything, just like the guy that you had to review recently, his invoice, and say, like, here's where they're getting you.
Good friend of mine.
So
yeah,
it happens more than and so a lot of times we have to tell people on these videos, like, hey, this isn't just about you. We're probably in the conservative side of the world, right? Watching the same media outlets, and that's where all these advertisers are at. And so it could be your aunt, it could be your grandpa, it could be your grandma that's talking to these people right now, that's getting totally upside down. And when I say upside down, like, we hear stories constantly of somebody putting $1 million into a gold retirement account, and unfortunately, because they picked the wrong dealer, they're only getting $500,000 worth of gold, but they're paying $1 million for it. And so you're upside down 50% from day one. So that's the problem that we thought we were going to solve. We thought we were going to solve that problem. And what we realized was that, back to the Oxford thing, and First State Depository is another one that's been in the headlines. I think it was 2024. But back to the Oxford thing, how does nobody know that there's no gold in these people's accounts? It's because the three parties, there's never any reconciliation. There's no checks and balances with anybody. So actually what we created completely on accident was a solution for this problem, which is possibly the biggest problem out there that we didn't even know existed. Because if your gold's not there, reconciliation. Yeah. If your gold's not there, or they didn't send the right amount, because nobody checks this stuff. James brought up Brinks, New York. Well, Brinks, LA, we just had a recent issue with them on this. These depositories, they're all third parties. They're not one company. And so they're not opening the boxes and verifying, Yankee, you can order 100 gold eagles and they could ship 50 and nobody would even ever know.
Well, that's not going to happen when I take mine. I'm actually waiting. I'm waiting on a special Tim round for silver and gold, right? You and I are working on that, right? That is going to be IRS approved. And that's what I want in my vault. And then when I get there, I'm gonna knock on your door, and I'm gonna walk in and I'm gonna say, "Show me where my gold is." Not that I don't trust you, I do trust you, but it is important to be able to know that what you buy is actually there. So you said there are three parties normally. With you, how many other?
Yeah, there's us and the custodian, but what we've done is we've created a technology product that sits between you and the custodian. So you only have to talk to us. Because you're well aware, you've been doing this for quite a while, Yankee. The custodian's customer service and support in general is not at the highest level in the self-directed space.
Yep. Yeah.
And so we've taken that on. And what we're about to release in the next month or so is you're actually going to be able to go. So right now, if you want to open an account with SD Bullion, you just call us and we do it all. We take your information and then it automatically sends you the contracts to e-sign, right? What we're about to launch in probably under 90 days is you can just go online. You can fill out the application online. You never even have to talk to us.
Cool.
And you can set up your custodian, your IRA, your depository account.
Mm-hmm.
All that. We'll be in touch. We'll help you get funded. I'll tell you this real quick. So the three parties under one roof, there's ours in, and this is going to be an ongoing episode, right? So maybe each episode we should probably talk about something specific, because even the importance of your metals getting lost in transit, or them being signed for, never deposited. There's so many horror stories that we're into now because this IRA program that we launched and the insight that we're getting into it. Ours is under one roof. You've been there. It comes in, all the metal comes into our facility under camera. It goes into our inventory. You buy it. You put it in your IRA account.
Mm-hmm.
It's picked, packed, and placed under camera and allocated specifically in your IRA account. It never leaves our facility. And so you never have to worry about your metals getting lost. You never have to worry about your metals showing up at Brinks and them saying they signed for it, even though
it's all under one roof. Right?
Yeah.
A very secured, Rocco monitored roof, and it's barcoded. So when I come and I actually see it, it'll say Yankee Stacking, right? Or actually probably my name. I'll have to cover it up, but it's going to be mine. Right?
Name.
Yeah, right. I'll pull it open, and it's going to be temporary. This is a temporary move for me, right? But I think that's important for people that are listening right now. To summarize real quick, this is not stacking. This is protecting some of your assets that are tied up in a current retirement account. So you need physical gold and silver, and you need a depository and a custodian, a dealer that you can trust, and that's SD Bullion for me. So cool. Yeah, we're going to talk a lot more in upcoming Mastering Metals about different aspects of retirement insights with you. But I think people really, I'm seeing super chats come in here, and people really have a lot of questions for you. And this is going to be for both of you. Unless
just a quick point.
Yeah, James, go ahead.
IRAs, there's like 40 states where like literally your IRAs, if someone sued you, they can't get your IRA. Okay, so like if you're a practicing doctor or a lawyer, a lot of them like to have a lot of their retirement funds in IRAs because we're in a litigious society and they worry about people suing them for something and losing everything. And so IRAs are a lot of times a way that people can legally protect and shield themselves from not going into the poorhouse because something wrong happened at their, whatever job they work in. Another thing, if you just simply Google gold IRA or silver IRA, this has been the case for 15, 20 years. Basically, the first 6, things that'll come up will be sponsored, and every click of those is at least $10 to $50, depending on how heavy the market is. That means that they're willing to pay. These boiler rooms are willing to pay $10 to $50 just to get your, a lead potentially. You land on the page, it's always a squeeze page. They want to get you in on some weird kit. They'll have people like Bill O'Reilly's face, Glenn Beck, William Devane, Chuck Woolery.
You're calling them all out.
Robert Kiyosaki, Donald Trump Jr., Dr. Ron Paul, Stephen Bannon, Meg Cayley,
everybody,
Ben Shapiro, even progressives
Shapiro,
progressives like Jimmy Dory on YouTube. He's pumping,
they're all pumping it. Yeah. I trust my gold too, and then they'll.
It's nonstop on TV with CNBC's, the Bloombergs, and then it's also now it's gotten on squeeze pages on CNBC. Yeah. CNBC's doing it. CBS is doing it. Investopedia is doing it. Jerusalem Post is doing it.
It's wrong. Everyone's doing it, and so what makes SD Bullion different? We're going to highlight that in future. Mastering Metals, we really need to show the difference because you got to differentiate it because you're going to get lumped in with all the shysters out there, and I don't want that to happen.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to go Q&A now, and I just put the Q&A section in the chat. We had about over 1,000 people in here. Feel free to put them in there. I do have to say though, the super chat questions come first, and we had one from. Mr. Smith, super chatted $10. Hey, I just got here. What happens after Doge audits Fort Knox? Told you, James, this is hot. If there's there or not there. In other words, we did kind of mention it, but you want to mention it again?
Now, the majority of the bars in Fort Knox are the 90% melt coins that came from 1933 confiscation in the United States. About a fourth of the outstanding gold coins came in at that time. About 3/4 of them still stayed out. Most citizens didn't. They ignored it. But a lot of those bars are still, I believe, in Fort Knox. They're just at 916, 22 karat fineness, because the United States didn't bother to turn them to 3.9. So they just put them on a big train and they pushed them across all the way to Kentucky. And I'm pretty confident they've been sitting there ever since. So,
what about the other hiding places? They're like the New York Fed and West Point or the other
West Point, which has the massive amount of the 3.9 fine. And that's where a lot of, silver eagles and gold eagles have been made there. And I'm sure a lot of the refiners on the East Coast, the ones that supply a lot of those bars. Then in Denver, you do have a little bit of 22 karat gold left over as well. So you have the combination of Fort Knox, West Point, and Denver. And, all total, it's supposed to be 8,133. My speculation is the United States actually has more than we say. Just given history and what's going on, I'm pretty confident we have more, not less.
Wow. I dropped the video with Tim and I said, what happens if it's less? And he's like, Yankee, they're not going to shoot themselves.
Right.
They wouldn't tell you. Well, Trump, Doge? No, of course not. Are you nuts?
I know.
They will be slowly getting it in. They're just not going to do it. So.
Well, think how silly that is. You can print U.S. dollars out of free will, right? Out of thin air. Like you're not going to go get gold if you have to replenish the stock.
All right, so we got another super chat from that boy Lenny of $2. When we going to see the next Commander release? There it is, man. I'm sure.
Yeah, of course.
I see other questions for it too. MR, yeah, I see you. Go ahead.
Yeah. We're looking at March release. So the next I'm trying to think, make sure I'm not speaking out of place. The next big release we're going to do on Silver Pros next Thursday. Yankee, it's going to be an exclusive. We're going to talk about next Thursday. So, but it's the collaboration coin between the U.S. Mint and the Royal Mint. So we got that exclusive at SD Bullion for 2025. So we're going to be launching that on Silver Pros next Thursday.
Yep.
And then the next big launch for us after that is going to be the next big or the next Commander. So probably early March is what we're targeting there.
And you're going to announce here. You're going to announce here what it is, right?
No, of course not. I haven't been given legal authority for that.
Oh man, it's going to be phenomenal. I can't wait.
It looks great though. It
does. Oh, okay. Send me one. I'll buy one.
I'll tell you, it's a U.S. one, and for whatever reason, every time it's a U.S. one, it feels cooler for.
Yeah.
us.
Right. Yeah. All right. So A&O super chat at $5 said, Chase, can I continue to generate income or grow through creative management my value of gold while SD Bullion has my 270K in their IRA? Wow. Well, thanks for sending that out. So, yeah. So you just, the value, I guess they already are a customer of yours. They want to continue to generate income or grow through creative management.
So that kind of touches on what we talked about earlier with creative management playing maybe a gold silver ratio on a long term, right?
Arbitrage.
So one thing I would suggest if you were getting into bullion and your precious metals IRA right now, American Silver Eagle premiums are down to just over $3 per spot, maybe $4. If you got them at these low, premiums relative to spot, at some point it's going to come back. We'll have an area at the time when it goes back into shortage and they'll pop up again and you'll have them $15, $20 over spot. At that point, you could take those Silver Eagles and say your Roth IRA and sell them, at a high premium back to SD Bullion because they're probably going to be needing Silver Eagles at that time to sell. So you're going to get a good price and you'll probably be able to turn over and buy, bars or rounds or what have you. Increase your rounds.
How quick and easy would that be, Chase, to do if it was in your depository?
It's in their IRA.
Yeah.
So basically, you would log 2 orders. You would sell us one and you would buy us one, or you would sell some and you'd buy it. We do this all the time. People are constantly.
But there's no shipping here. It goes from one side of the building to the other, right? Back and forth.
Yeah,
right?
but we got to put it back in inventory. But basically, what happens is, let's say you sell in this guy's case, in this person's case, you sell 100,000. You basically have a credit of 100,000 to go towards your order of whatever you're ordering. So the other thing that you could look at is the other thing we talked about, playing the gold to silver ratio. And again, we're not financial advisors, but this is what I'm looking at doing with my own stack right now. Is that I think I'm going to sell probably 50% of the gold I have and move into silver right now, just because it feels like a logical move looking at the charts. So.
All right, Frank. Also, oops, sorry. Go ahead, James.
One other point about it being in an IRA is with like a Roth, for instance. You don't have to do any tax paperwork, right? I mean, it just goes straight away, so you don't have to even.
Both,
yeah.
Roth or traditional. It's going to go tax free.
Yeah. So that's a great thing about it. It's just really hassle free, and you can get it done really quickly.
Frank, super chat of $5. Thank you so much. Would I be able to manage my depository account online versus calling?
Yeah, I assume they're talking about so we have the depository, we have the IRA. Those are a little bit different because with an IRA, you have the custodian.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything has to kind of be going through that vein, just as if you're going to sell a stock, right? So through the depository is a little bit easier because you don't have that custodian background, but we are working on it. I wouldn't even. It's not going to be in the near future, unfortunately.
Next year.
But yeah, hopefully, yeah, hopefully next year. Yeah, eventually there will be a way to manage your
Cool.
depository account online. Yeah.
All right, some other chat questions in here. Robin M., if we don't have an IRA, can we start one through SD Bullion and contribute monthly?
Yeah, so we had somebody do this just last week. Because as we're coming up against the tax deadline too, keep in mind I say all your, if it's a traditional IRA, which is what most people are going to be doing, what's the max this year, Yankee? Do you know for the tax season?
Well,
I'd have to
I have
Google
a
it.
catch up, so I don't want to say the number.
For Roth, it's 7,500. I'm pretty
Right.
sure.
I'm a
Yeah,
little higher because of my age.
yeah. So if you put 7,000 or 500 in before you file your taxes for 2025, effectively you're able to deduct that from your 2024 tax return, right?
Mhm.
And so we had a guy call us just last week, started the account, funded it via this method, right? It was a new IRA and made a purchase and deposited all within 24 hours.
Mm.
That's unheard of in the
Mm.
in the IRA
The
space.
turnaround, that's
Any
the
other
other
IRA
thing.
dealer, yeah,
They
yeah.
delay. It takes
Yeah.
so long. So that's
Well, a lot
really,
of these people don't have the metals. They don't have the metals, and
yeah.
you don't know what the pricing is. But to go back to answer that question, contributing monthly,
Yep.
yes, you could, right? If you're just starting an IRA today, like you don't have a 401k that you're rolling over, then you are going to be at the max limit per
Mhm.
year to what the IRS allows, right? So you kind of
Yep.
have your two general people, the people that are starting an IRA because they say, okay, I'm going to get my tax-free growth. I'm going to defer my taxes. Okay, you're going to hit that cap every year, and every year it goes up a little bit.
Mhm.
Once you do that, you're basically done for the year. Then you have the people that have worked their entire life, and they have, some guys call us with the $5 million in their
Oh, my
retirement
word.
account from a 401k, and they say, I want to put $1 million. I want to protect 20% of it. Right? That's a rollover. Right?
Yep.
So that's
Yep.
a little bit different mechanism.
And speaking of rollovers, I did see, I can't pronounce the name, sorry, YKJ. Can an existing IRA metals account from, say, American Heritage be transferred to SD Bullion, and how would that work?
Yep, we have a lot of those, especially once people figure out the depository side of it. They start to call us and say, "How do I move my metals in?" So it's just a like kind transfer. But yes, we do those all the time, and depending on the size of it and everything, there will be fees, not necessarily from the SD Buoyant side, but to move the metal, right? Because
Yep.
depositories are always going to charge you to box up your metal, ship it, whatever. So depending on the size that you're looking at, we will help. Maybe you qualify for us to help you with some of those.
Fees. That's
Yep.
another question people keep asking. What about the fees? I mean, you're competitive.
Yep.
How does that work?
Yeah. So what we negotiated at SD Buoyant, because we're a volume dealer, is that there's always going to be fees, but there's a lot less. There's not a a huge buffet of fees. So I'll tell you the most basic
You
ones
got to
is
pay Rocco, right? I mean, you got to pay your
yeah. So
security.
yeah. Well, most of the fees go toward the custodian side. So there's a
Custodian. Okay.
$150 annual maintenance fee. That's basically the
Mm.
paperwork to
Mhm.
manage the custodian side. That happens every year around your anniversary date when you start. Um, Other fees from the custodian. It's been a while since I looked at. We negotiated them down where there was like 12
Is
fees
it
down to like 3 or 4.
transaction fees and buy sell?
Well, there's not a lot. Like, there's usually a bank wire fee if you didn't go with SD Buoyant IRA, but if you go with SD
Okay.
Buoyant IRA, there is. I'd say that one of the most common fees we see is when somebody sells their metal. Let's say
Mhm.
they're whatever it is, and then they're taking cash. If you opt for a bank wire, if you opt for like a faster processing time on the custodian side, they'll charge you a fee. 15 $25. I can't remember. There's not a lot of fees on the storage side. It's 29 basis points for gold and platinum. Don't forget about platinum if you're interested.
Mm.
And 39 basis points per year on silver. Now, a lot of people that we run into, this is a kind of an interesting topic, right? Because whenever you have your money in Schwab or wherever it's at being managed, you normally don't see the fees, right? But the fees are
Oh yeah, it's hidden.
normally,
Yeah, they like to hide
yeah,
that
they're
stuff.
hidden, but they're there, and they're usually 100 basis points or more. So the depository, the storage side is 29 basis points on gold and platinum and 39 on silver. And we are running a promotion right now that we just started. I think we're going to run until the end of March for now. That's basically free storage on accounts that qualify. So the qualification starts at $20,000 or more. And keep in mind, the average order on an IRA is usually around $40,000. So most people qualify for that. So
Qualify for
we're
what?
trying to
Free?
help.
Wait a minute. I'm kind of interested in this person.
Yeah. Sorry, I
No,
kind of
no, you
glazed
blew
over
by
that.
that
Yeah.
one. I'm like, okay, we'll have to free storage for a certain amount. That's fantastic. Yeah, you might want to check
That's
on the
getting a lot of people
details.
over the hump.
Yeah,
Yeah, when we're talking to them. Yeah.
cool.
One other point about the storage fees, like for instance, GLD, the largest gold ETF, they take 40 basis points out every year.
Oh my word.
The amount of shares that you have just shrink by 40 basis points.
That's
SLV
awful.
50 basis points, PSLV 50 basis points. So it's, I mean,
Yeah, so we're half of that.
Yeah,
Wow.
you guys are more competitive than that. So
All right.
Yeah, that's a good call out.
Shifting gears here, the Brooks Stacker says, does SD Bullion offer tungsten products? Why? I don't know where that came from.
It's a joke. Someone like
no. It's actually okay. Fine. I'll be doing a video on Friday on tungsten because I think there's some from a rare earth
tungsten
mineral.
cube.
I think not that I've stacked it, but I think there's an opportunity there with rare earth because of some of the stuff Trump's doing. But anyway,
Sure.
Very interesting question. You don't sell tungsten, I'm sure.
One other thing to remember with these exotic metals is the
Yep.
spread. The two-way spreads on those things are gargantuan, right? And
That's why I don't buy copper.
Right. Nobody makes a market in those things.
No.
So that's the
Trent said, so don't get Charlie Kirk's Noble Gold Corp. No,
I would pass.
What Will A2 says, ever think of starting a layaway program?
Can I go back and say something real quick about that?
Go ahead.
So one of the first things you want to look at is, it's very, very straightforward. Because I was actually just on that Noble Gold website this last week. You can't find anywhere to get a price, right? You can't find anywhere that they will show you a price for gold. That's on purpose.
You got to call.
And normally if there's a good price, you have to call to actually buy it in bulk. In fact, this guy that was telling you about earlier with the quarter ounce gold, the way they got him was they were pricing him gold eagles at $60 over spot, which is not a bad price at all. But once they got him on the phone, they talked him into only doing 2 gold eagles at $60 over spot and buying these special unique quarter ounce gold coins at $3,000 over spot. Right. So even those fraudsters that do show you a price, it's never like at SD Bullion where we show you the bulk pricing. It's transparent. And that's the same pricing for your IRA. So, you could have bought 29-cent silver rounds last week in your IRA if you had one.
So go ahead.
A lot of the mechanics of those places, they have like a burn and churn frontline salespeople that they kind of burn and churn through. And then at the middle, they have these account managers. So the burn and churn guys get them to send in the money, and then they get on the phone 2 versus 1 and talk you into buying these exclusive scamming.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's the front. That's another thing you got to watch out for. They hound you afterwards. They'll tease you, just like a used car salesman. Anyways, we have so many questions. I know we could go deep on all of them, but I just gotta touch base really quick on them. Hawk Shop Sporting Center. Like to have a picture of my SD Bullion IRA in the near future. That should be cool. To have a picture, if they could take a picture of what's in there with their barcode and have it securely sent to them.
The barcode would be. I'd have to think about that.
Yeah, you probably could.
It could be
but it'd be kind of. I mean, I could understand why. I mean, I want to see mine too, right? Mary call if I'm already over 59.5, can you still transfer IRA to gold silver IRA account at SD Bullion?
100%.
Absolutely, you can.
I would say that's normally the bulk of the people that we get.
In fact, if you have a 401k and you're over that age, you can actually do a distribution. A rollover. You really can. You got to talk to. They won't want you to, but you can.
Yeah.
Samsung Apple. Do you see banks doing a bail-in on IRA 401ks or the Great Taking kind of same thing? Samsung Apple. The great taking.
I think, yeah. Well, you said don't go too deep, but I would say the high level, real quick, is the great taking is if you have money in a retirement account, is the exact reason you should have something in physical,
Physical,
because the
exactly.
likelihood of them coming and getting your physical,
Yeah,
in
they're
my
not after
opinion,
that.
is almost a
No.
0%.
They
Right?
want
Yeah.
your bits. They
So,
want the digital stuff. They'll steal what they can without doing that. I think that's my opinion. And again, it's like I almost said Fort. I almost
hang on.
said
The
it's.
other thing about
I almost said it was like Fort Knox at SD Bullion. It's better. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we have it. We have it. It's audited. No, James brought up a point that I don't think is understood well enough in our community early on, where when they did gold confiscation in the 30s, totally different scenario. They only got 27%, James.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this gold confiscation is just a story that the phone dealers use to scare people into different things. It's to me, it's nothing that I think about ever with my own stack. I'm not worried about it at all.
Nope, absolutely not. There's no reason to do it. They don't need to do it. They'll go after
Yeah.
something else. And you know what? Executive orders aren't laws. Okay, Goomba Gary, does a physical precious metals IRA have to be held in a trust?
No, definitely not. There's a bunch of different ways you can hold it.
Another one for the Commander Series questions. See, is fractional becoming more popular? The Broke Stacker wants to know because of the rise of the gold spot price. Is fractional gold becoming more popular?
Yes, it is. Just by default, people can
Because
afford
it's
it
more expensive, right?
Yep.
See, is junk silver disappearing? This is Big Mike. You just said they
Not
were
yet.
melting it. I'm like,
Not yet. We're not.
You're
We're
not, right?
no, definitely not. We wouldn't. That'd be a dumb use of our inventory.
All right. ASEs, while on the subject, POTUS is a bulldog. No permission. 2026 is as big as the bicentennial, according to Trump Doge movement. Entertain the Type 2 ASE be updated as a Type 3? Who knows? I don't know. I think
Haven't heard anything.
what was her name? Shelton was looking to. I overheard that she said that the 50-year T-bills backed by gold may be launched in 2026 for the celebration.
All right. She wants to have some gold lacing and a long-term bond. Right?
Exactly. 50 years.
Yeah.
Tim said no. She won't be around.
Yeah,
that's true. How is the IRA insured? If something happens and SD has unforeseen problem, what happens to the people's precious metals?
Yeah, so it's insured just like everything else in our our inventory, the depository inventory, the IRA inventory. The great thing about, if I am understanding the question correctly, the largest benefit to working with SD Boyd in this capacity is we have zero debt. And there's nobody else that can really say that. We don't hedge our inventory. So other than an earthquake breaking, which is, we're on a quarry rock, I don't really know what could happen for that scenario to actually come into play.
I feel confident after being there several times now that I would put 50 grand worth of gold and silver and sleep like a baby every night, knowing it's protected, knowing it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, you got to keep in mind how much inventory we have for the business there, right? And, that's vitally important.
James, Jimmy Hat wants to know, why is China stacking gold? Is it to give their currency credibility?
I mean, China in general, the culture has always been big gold buyers, and they've been buying as far as the government since the early 80s. They really got more aggressive in their buying around 2008, global financial crisis. And if you look at like their official gold reserves, what they've been declaring, it seems like they declare, every 5 years they go through a rush of adding more. But if you look at a chart side by side with Russia, it looks like they've been in agreement of matching each other's climb on the official gold side. But the truth of the matter is their sovereign wealth funds have more gold that's off their official reserve balance sheets. And then China has, I think, 12 or 13,000 metric tons of proven reserves in their ground. Russia probably has equivalent. And so Russia, I would assume in the coming decades, is going to be probably the number one gold miner in the world, because the frozen tundra has a lot of gold that they're going to be pulling out of the ground. So both of those countries are going to be gold powerhouses. The question is, how are they going to come, in terms of their official reserve? I would imagine at some point China will declare they have a lot more than 2,300 tons or whatever the number is right now.
I think MM says, I wish I had gotten the Trump coin. You mean this? That was nice. I like that one. I don't like the one that they have. Oh, well. Anyway, any plans on starting a rewards program like the one the other dealers do?
Hard to beat 29-cent rounds.
That's a reward program.
Oh, man, I'll tell you.
See how many dealers will sell you 10,000 of those at 29 cents. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, it's it's something we talk about all the time. I'm sure at some point it'll be on the roadmap, but yeah.
All right, and the last one, I guess, D-Wiz, status of the 2024 Monster Box giveaway. Oh, it's given away.
Yeah.
You actually go to the sweepstakes site on the bottom. Scroll to the bottom.
Yeah.
You'll see all the past winners. You'll see 2024 winners. He's probably now really disappointed because he didn't get the call.
we get a lot of that. We're in full disclosure. We're trying to get some partners to jump in like the next year to give out more so we can have more winners. But yeah, unfortunately there's only one winner a year. That one winner is really excited and everybody else is pretty bummed. But I don't know.
All right, maybe one more. James, I'll throw one more at you. Bullicano said, "What can you tell people who want to keep their entire portfolio in precious metals?"
I mean, that's more or less who I am. I'm absolutely aggressive in my belief in bullion at the moment. And what I would tell someone to do is to keep their overhead at a reasonable place with their income where they can maintain and not go into debt. And they, basically have paid off everything.
And maybe have a reserve?
Oh, I mean, where your reserve is your bullion, right? That's one way. And have a cash reserve, of course, like for 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
If you lost your job, to have liquid cash in case the worst came with your job or what have you, or your business. But yeah, I mean, look, if you look back to like 1968 till now, throughout the full fiat currency era, back-tested data, if you look at it, bullion, gold, especially gold in this test versus the S&P 500 and U.S. Treasury bonds and Treasury notes, the proper allocation has been about 25% gold versus the other two asset classes. So your liquid net worth, literally keeping a fourth of your liquid net worth over the last 50 some odd years in gold has proven to be a good risk reward in terms of growing your assets throughout that entire time frame. So my contention is that we're about to go through an even bigger bull market than you've ever seen. So if you want to be more aggressive than 25% liquid net worth, just simply plan it out so you can wait it out and you're patient. That's the concept.
Good advice. All right. So I ended the chat, but there are super chats coming in, and I obviously have to throw them out first. So thank you so much to A&O, super chat at $5. Chase, are you saying in a confiscation, SD Bullion would not be forced to turn my gold over to the government? Can I swap to silver if that is in the forecast? Let me know if the gold's going to be confiscated so I can switch it to silver. No, if they're going to physically take your gold, then I don't think the silver's safe.
Yeah.
No, but I mean,
the reality is that if the military showed up at our depository, we're not going to fight the military, right? So we do get this question.
Give them a good fight.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
But
give them a good fight.
Yeah, it's just to think about how much gold is in the world, and to think about how much is in our depository. It just seems so unlikely that there's even a scenario where this ever comes up, right? I don't know, but yeah,
and
we're not going to fight the military.
And you know what? They could show up at my door. I'm my own depository. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And my safes and wherever I put them, which I won't say where, there's always a potential to lose something. But, I think and one other thing that's important to remember is for some people, they live in a very dangerous area. Maybe they live in an apartment. Maybe they live with people they don't trust.
Right.
Yeah.
There are reasons to have someone trusted like SD Bullion guard your metals. Now, there's a fee every year, whatever. I get that. And for me, I want it, right? So I look at you as a way to hedge and protect what's in my, 401k or IRA and be able to do it at least temporarily for me until it's mine in my hands. So
yeah, personally, that's the way. I mean, my face is on the internet. Why would I keep everything in one place, right? You gotta mix it up, right? In case the worst came to pass, and you don't want to lose everything, so you don't keep everything in one spot.
Right. There's another super chat that came in from SK Tahoe NV. $20 super chat. Thank you very much. Are you seeing lower mintages of gold coins with a higher price? Are you saying maybe you lower mintage? Sorry, I'm trying to. Are you seeing lower mintage of gold coins with the higher prices?
Yes. To answer the question, I think I know what they're asking. Okay. So I'll give you some examples. So, any product launched by anybody. We're not talking about a silver eagle and a gold eagle. We're talking about commanders. We're talking about basically anything that's not a mainstream bullion product. Those were launching with like 5,000 to 10,000 ounce mintages a year, 2 years ago. Now those are going down to like 2,000 an ounce. Mm-hmm. Like I said, we've seen a really good uptick in gold recently, but there for a while, gold is obviously getting more expensive. So it's really heavy on the balance sheet. And you have to move it. So what that means is, yes, everybody is coming out with significantly lower mintages for programs that they're taking to market. Usually by at least 50%. You'll see that with the deal that we launched next Thursday on Silver Pros. Even on the silver side, the silver mintage compared to what was put out the year before, which is good because it's a semi-collectible item. Collaboration. We'll talk about that next Thursday, but these, the lower mintages can actually, have some good benefit during these times. And I've seen it with US Mint, like the ATB series, when they would drop the ATB series mintages down to 17,000. If you were able to buy those versus the ones they made 100,000 of, your long-term appreciation play and arbitrage and all the stuff we've talked about significantly goes up.
Yeah, you said next Thursday. I just want to be very clear for people to know the 27th of February is when we'll have Andrew Dickey on from the Royal Mint, joining me on Silver Pros with Silver Dragons. You're not going to want to miss it. And this Thursday, we'll do another Ask Yankee as well. But I think this has been a fantastic, great episode with you on Mastering Metals, Chase and James. Oh, wait a minute. I was just going to sign off, but I saw another super chat come flying in here. Gotta honor the super chats, guys. My favorite product on SD Bullion is the local silver mint 1/10 ounce rounds. Those things are so cool. I found a local farmer who takes one for a carton of eggs. Thank you, SD Bullion. I love those little fractionals too.
Where did you find eggs? Because there's no eggs in Texas.
I just went shopping today with Mrs. Yankee, and it was like the cupboard was bare. How much are you paying for a dozen?
$6.
No, there's none. There's none on the shelf.
There was. It was really low.
About 10.
It was really low. 10. Mine was $8.50.
Damn.
Yeah. $8.50. Yeah. That hurt. All right. Well, anyways, guys, if you're watching right now and you're interested in speaking more about or getting more details on this gold and silver IRA with SD Bullion, Chase, what's the best way for them to reach out? In fact, I think I need to put this.
Yeah, if you link below, it's IRA.sdbullion.com.
Right there, guys. I stuck it in the chat.
sdbullion.com.
Yeah, that's where you want to go.
You'll find a form pretty easy to fill out, and one of our guys or gals will get in touch with you. But the website's it's going to answer a lot of the questions that were asked on the video tonight, Yankee. We have a bunch of different pages on there talking about the depository.
Cool.
I would highly recommend watching the podcast Tyler and I did over IRAs because there's going to be a lot of answers in there as well. Also, you get to hear Tyler's personal story of going through it all. Right. So, definitely watch that and get in touch.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you also out there watching Mastering Metals. I really appreciate it. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, and we're going to see you next month on Mastering Metals. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.